Thank you so much. Come in. Sit down. Oh, thank you so much for joining me here in this spooky cabin in the woods, deep in the heart of Chicago, Illinois. I invited you here tonight because I wanted to tell you about my new podcast. It's called The Irrational. Essentially what it is I invite my friends to discuss different fears or anxieties that they've gotten from a piece of media rather than an actual life experience. I wanted this to be the focus of the podcast because I feel like this is like a pretty relatable topic. Like I feel like this is something that everyone experiences. You know, you watch a movie when you're too young or you read a scary book and then suddenly it affects you for several months or, in the case of some of our guests, their entire lives. I personally know I have too many to name. So much so that if you asked me to write them all down, I probably wouldn't be able to because they're just so deeply ingrained in me that they just become a natural part of my life. At first I was worried because I thought maybe I was just a weirdo and I let media haunt me too much. But after having a few discussions with friends, I realized that no, we all have these things. It's way more relatable than I expected it to be. People get excited when I tell them about the podcast, like, oh no, I've got something ready to go. Our first guest, Andrew Melzer, you'll come to know him as Melzer pretty quickly. When I asked him if he had something like this, he knew in a heartbeat. Just didn't even have to think about it. I'm not going to spoil what it is, just let you listen to the podcast. Before we started, I just wanted to thank Melzer for being my first guest and just sitting down and chatting with me and figuring out the format of the show going forward. We had a really good conversation. I'm excited for you to hear it. Andrew's a really funny guy. He does a lot of funny stuff in Chicago. It's kind of hard to put a label on him because he writes, he acts, he films stuff. He's part of a group called Muscular Clown. You can find them on Twitter at Muscular Clown. You can also find them on YouTube. I do recommend checking out their YouTube channel. They just released a funny sketch this week called Ajax. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. Just go check it out. It's really funny. And he also recently got a digital short or a pilot, I'm not really sure what you'd call it, up on Nickelodeon.com called The Magic Hour. It is hilarious. I've seen it. I recommend checking that out as well. Without further ado, welcome to The Irrational. Today, we have Andrew Melzer, otherwise known as Melzer. Is it Meltzer or Melzer?
It's Melzer. I think like our history, like our family's name, like from Germany was Melzer.
Yeah.
And I think just they lost the T.
So when you spell it, you do not have the T, correct?
Yeah, we don't have the T, but there are a bunch of other people in the world that it's the same exact name with the T, and I've never seen anyone else without it.
I've more commonly seen with the T.
Yeah. Like there's a guy who has like a history show.
Yeah.
Like Brad Meltzer's Secrets of DC or something, and he like basically just does like a national treasure for these people, but it's like a reality show.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty bad.
Cool. So we have Andrew Melzer here. You can feel free to call him Melzer if you ever meet him on the streets. And I don't know, what's your fear was old people stealing your youth, was it?
Yeah. For the longest time, I've been really afraid of old people solely because I feel like they want my youth.
Okay. And why? What, like...
Well, I mean, it's an irrational fear. I don't exactly know why.
Yeah.
But like, there were a couple things that I saw that probably gave me the idea. But I do know that, like, where it really manifested the most in my life was, I grew up Catholic, and it's not communion, but there's a part where they make us all hold hands.
What? Hold hands.
Yeah, it's
and
like
keep holding hands, or the peace be with you part where you shake everyone's hands.
Peace be with you part when you shake hands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're not holding hands and then staying like hands held for the rest of the.
But see, here's the thing: I kind of feel like there is another part where you did that.
Really?
And everyone just held hands for a second.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The peace be with you part I remember.
Yeah.
But I used to be so afraid of touching an old person, and it was only because I had this weird fear that like they were going to zap my youth out of me. Like this was all their plan.
That's wild.
It's like they were going to sit next to some kid, and then I was going to lose
Steal
like
their essence.
7 years of my life, and they were going to gain 7.
See, now I was always also afraid of touching old people, but because they were so frail, I was afraid I would hurt them just by generally touching, like
Gotcha.
like shaking their hand. I felt like I would just break their brittle bones. Like I never was like afraid though that they were gonna steal my youth.
So you thought you were so strong, you were just gonna like grind them to dust. If like
Less that I was strong and more that they were just that fragile. Okay, so one time when I was little, we were playing with these like crappy little hockey sticks. I was definitely under 10, like super young kid, and we were it was Easter and we were smacking empty Easter eggs around with these hockey sticks. And I hit one and it very delicately rolled over and hit my great grandmother's ankle. And she called me over and she grabbed me by like the arm and she had to explain to me. She's like, old people are very fragile. You can't, hit us with stuff. You're going to hurt us, blah, blah, blah. And in my head, I was like, there was no speed to that egg. It was just rolling slowly. And it was an empty plastic Easter egg. So I was like, if that hurt her, then old people have to be the most fragile things in existence, because like it couldn't have hurt anybody. It couldn't have hurt like the oldest, most frail person in the world. But I think she was just like,
she was over exaggerating a ton.
Looking back, it makes sense for her to say that to me because she was like, I don't want the next one coming at me really hard. She was probably just like, be more careful. And she's also a very old lady who didn't know how to talk to a child. So I forgive her for it, but it just painted my view of old people in a very specific, frail light.
I mean, I always knew that they were incapable of certain things, but I never really thought that they were frail. Yeah. Like a lot of, our grandparents were kind of from like a tougher generation for the most part.
Yes.
And they had like a lot of like, they didn't go to the hospital when things were wrong.
Right.
And stuff. And I recall my grandma being able to just like pull things out of the oven without oven mitts.
Sure.
And
she's just that calloused.
Yeah, just that fucked up. There's no nerves. She just would do it. And like if I was even near it, like put my hand near it, I'd be like,
right. Well, my father, I visited home and he broke his finger. And I was like, what the hell? When did you do that? And he's like, like 2 days ago. And I was like, go to the hospital. Like, do something. You can't have a broken finger for 2 days. And he's like, no, I just need to get like a popsicle stick. I'll be fine. I'm like, what the fuck are you
Your
talking
dad does
about?
seem manly.
He's a man.
Yeah,
he's a
full-on
actual man. I'm not.
Yeah, no.
He didn't give any of that to me, but I'm just like, if he can do that, then his parents are even more tough.
Oh yeah, they would eat nails. Yeah, they're
so. I don't know. Just that one experience made me feel like they were frail, but I never thought that they were going to steal my life force.
Yeah, I was convinced that was something that they could do. Like, so I guess when you're old, people probably don't want to touch you that much to begin with.
Sure.
But I always recalled them being overzealous at church when trying to grab my hand or shake my hand and stuff. And I, obviously probably looked like I didn't want to touch their hands.
Yeah.
But I was like, what's their game?
Yeah.
What are they after?
And you're already in a church, so like there is definitely something spiritual and mystical going on in the first place.
Yeah.
Like,
but if you think about church is horrifying because like my church didn't just have a cross. They had like a painstakingly made replica of the corpse of Christ.
Same.
Up there with the blood and
everything.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And like him looking all emaciated. And,
right. So you're already in this weird mindset.
Yeah, and then you're told you're drinking his blood.
Old
yeah, and eating his body. There's a lot of weird shit going on.
Yeah.
And then I got to touch all these old people, and you can fucking see their veins. It's gross.
And you're just like, you're worried you're going to pull your hand away, and suddenly you can see your veins.
Uh-huh.
And they're going to be 40 again.
Yeah, and they're young, and they have like, they know how to live life. They're going to live it better now that they're young. And I didn't even know. I missed it.
Yeah.
I didn't even live long enough to figure out how to steal someone else's youth. I'm just the old one now.
So you think every old person could just steal the youth from a child?
I did. I mean, I'm definitely
I'm sure
over that by now. But up until in high school, I had to like brace myself, even though I knew it was not right.
So this lasted. You were a teenager before this started to really go away.
I think it fell into I didn't believe they could steal my youth as much as I was just like grossed out to touch them by the end of it. But I was not grossed out before I had this thought.
Yeah.
This thought ruined old people for me.
Okay.
If I didn't have this thought, I would be like banging old ladies now. But
God damn it.
But it ruined what are they called? Sabers when they're of a certain age?
Sabers.
Like saber-toothed tiger?
I've never heard
like
that.
Cougar is
I've heard dragon. I don't know.
I like dragon better.
I don't get the the logic behind dragon. Although I don't get the logic behind cougar either.
Well, I don't get the logic behind cougar, but as saber as the next step,
That makes sense.
it connects to the cougar.
Yeah.
But I don't understand cougar either. It's not
Yeah.
like cougars are trying to fuck young cats.
Yeah.
All
I don't
the
get
time.
it.
Yeah, I don't really understand.
Maybe
it.
they do. Maybe we just don't know
Yeah.
anything about cougars.
We should get someone who knows a lot about cougars on here.
Just have
A lot of sexy
turn into the
details.
cougar podcast. So let's see. You're scared of touching old people. It goes pretty late in your life. And where did this come from? You mentioned
Yeah.
this is from. If you were going to pinpoint it, you said it's from an episode of.
Are You Afraid of the Dark? Yeah.
Yeah, handful of
There's a
other
lot
things.
of fears that I had for a while that I can pinpoint back to that show.
Sure. I'm sure a lot of our generation could. That
Oh, sure.
probably not so much Goosebumps, because Goosebumps was like absurd
Yeah.
fear stuff, where I feel like Are You Afraid of the Dark and like Tales from the Crypt, they're still absurd, but they were kind of more lasting, like regular horror stories that could really become part of your life.
Well, I think the thing that Are You Afraid of the Dark did in a real serious way that Goosebumps didn't. Goosebumps had a combative element. Like,
Yeah.
Goosebumps, the issue usually would be solved once the hero stood up to its opponent.
Yeah.
Whereas Are You Afraid of the Dark was kind of morality tales. It was always like the greed of the kid got them into it.
Yeah.
And someone's going down for it and one person's going to skate away. But it wasn't like, in a Goosebumps episode, it's like, I'm going to go. We have the jewel. We're going to take down the ventriloquist dummy now.
Right.
And then they get to become heroic. Where, like, I remember an episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And this wasn't the one that, like, sparked this thought. But they found, like, a pool at their school or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's, like, a lifeguard who's, like, an old man now who, like, a little kid died because he was trying to get laid. And he didn't see the kid drown.
Wow.
And this old man has spent the rest of his life, like, he plugged up the part of the school. We built a wall there so no one would find it.
Yeah.
Of course someone did. And he comes in and he's like, kids, you can't go into the pool. And they're all like, fuck you, it's a pool. I'll do what I want.
Yeah.
And they all start getting murdered by drowning from this little ghost kid who's just trying to get friends by dragging them down. And then, like, there's no hero. They don't ever, like, get rid of the kid. They just, like, the old man jumps into the water and is like, I'm sorry, and lets the kid drown him. And then the other kids are just like, let's board up the pool.
And then they just walk away.
And they walk away. And that's so much scarier than being like,
It's way scarier.
we got a vacuum, we suck the kid out of the pool.
Yeah, I feel like Goosebumps a lot of times did have a solution at the end. Like the kids kind of overcame it. It was pretty rare when they didn't, and it was always kind of shocking because you're suddenly like you're used to this format where it's like scary thing happens, the kids beat it, the monster's dead, they go on with their lives. Maybe there's something ominous at the very end.
Yeah, like the one with the plant people.
Yeah, but it wouldn't like be just end in a nightmare,
Yeah.
But I feel like Are You Afraid of the Dark would like leave kids dead. And
All
it's
the
just
time.
like, oh, okay, so it was more like
And I think Goosebumps was better made as far as like the quality of the film and the thought out of the episodes, because
Sure.
sometimes there was some weird bullcrap that was left hanging in Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes that made no sense.
well, there are a lot of moments in the episode that I watched for specifically relating to your fear about the woman stealing the youth that I was just baffled by. Like the acting is so atrocious. It's so bad. And like I love the pan. It'll be like a shot and they're panning throughout the room, right? And then it'll get to the two people that are going to be like the focus of the scene. And you can tell that they were just standing there silent, waiting for the camera to get to them. But they don't start speaking right away.
Sure.
So it's like there's just this moment of them staring into each other's eyes and then her being like, can I get that watch back now? And then she's like, you told me. And it's like, what were you doing for 30
Right.
seconds? Just dead silence, staring at each other?
Or weird line. That episode specifically had this weird moment where the lines were all clearly forgotten and they just didn't do another take or some
Yeah.
bullshit. Like they walk outside and they're like, where's Sarah? And they just stand in silence for a good 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And the other one's like, didn't she live somewhere? And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, she lives somewhere. Let's go there.
Yeah. She was like, oh, like, how are we going to get the watch back from her? And then like, yeah, you said it was dead silence. And then she goes like, we'll go to her house. And then it was quiet. And she goes, I don't know where she lives. And then she's like, oh, she went to our boss's house. And
Yeah.
then they just walk away happy. And I'm like, well, how do you know where your boss lives? Like,
Yeah.
I would know where my
And-
friend that I work with lives over my boss. I
And
have
that
no idea
person
where my
was
boss-
hired that day. And this
So
stopped me
weird.
from touching old people
Yeah.
for years.
And so in this episode, what happens? She makes her look in a magic mirror, and then she makes her drink a potion.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird to say it definitely started from this episode or the other one that I sent you from Are You Afraid? But like,
Yeah, we'll
it's a
talk
trope, especially even more so than just old people stealing youth. A old woman stealing a younger woman's beauty is a trope. It's in almost everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Or
she
at least
has
like the desire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like in Snow White, like she didn't steal it, but she was like, no, I
Jealous
want to be the
of-
most beautiful, so I'll get rid of you.
Yeah, and then there is there was some like European noblewoman that was always she was like a queen or something of like some Eastern European country, and she was always accused of like having virgins murdered so she could bathe in their blood to
Wow.
stay pretty. You know, so there's like a deep seated in our culture
Yeah.
belief that like, you know, since women are so judged on their looks that they have to keep it up into their old age by murdering.
There was a
youth.
part like when they were talking. Actually, throughout this entire episode, the way they discuss beauty, I was like offended. Like I was like, don't tell young girls this. Like,
Oh,
they
totally.
just were so. I get that that's the whole point of this episode, and I also get that this is from like probably early '90s, right?
Definitely.
I didn't grow up with cable, so I watched all of this
Oh,
shit
no.
really late on YouTube and stuff.
Yes. Yeah, it was the early 90s
So
or mid 90s, whatever you want to
just
call
the
it.
way they were talking about beauty, I was like, you can't be talking about how important beauty is to a 12-year-old girl and then putting so much makeup on her during it. It was so fucking weird.
There was that the first scene, like they bring in this girl who's like a 13-year-old girl. Like it's fine. She
Yeah.
can look however she wants. She's
Yeah.
13.
She looks like a normal 13-year-old
Looks like
girl.
a normal. And they're like, I don't know if you can work here unless we make over.
Yeah, and then the
they doll her
makeover,
up.
she's like,
looks like a.
she's a 13-year-old girl still, but she looks like she's trying to be a 30-year-old woman.
I know. It was like
a
Boner City.
Professional. God damn it. It was so weird. Like, and then when she gives the girl the magic potion, she's just going on and on about how like you can be beautiful forever. Just drink this potion and you'll have beauty forever.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that's-
she's 14. She doesn't need to be thinking about beauty forever at this age.
Rewatching it, was it the potion that was doing it, or was it the mirror that was doing it?
I have no idea. There was definitely a magic mirror.
And a magic potion.
I think it was the combination of the two.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Terribly written.
Yeah,
but
they don't explain it very well.
besides the point, things like that got into my head at a very like young age. And
Yeah.
I think that's when I started like having the fear that like an old person might be trying that. Because like if you think about it, like what's worse than growing old? Like nothing.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Now that I've done it a little bit, I hate it.
yeah.
My hair's going gray,
I'm
and I'm
not
like,
worried
oh, if
about
I
it.
could just like suck the youth out of Charlie, I'd have beautiful, beautiful golden hair.
Yeah, but you have a full head of hair still.
I do, yeah.
A
I
full head
definitely
is
do.
better than thinning, in my opinion.
Tell that to my girlfriend.
But what? She doesn't like the salt and pepper?
She's asked me multiple times when I'm gonna diet.
I like the salt and pepper.
I do too.
It looks fine.
I've always looked too young, so I feel like if it went all gray, I'd fall into this weird like Steve Martin area where you just can't place his age. Like
Sure.
you know he's older than 20 and he's younger than 60, but other than that, I gotta treat him normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my dad started going gray when he was like 18.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Well, he used to race
do you
stock
see
cars.
some shit?
Remember I said how big of a fucking man he was?
Oh, God
He used to race stock cars, and he got in an accident and put his head through the windshield. And he said like that year he started going gray, so he thinks it was like trauma related.
Oh,
Yeah, but he always had a full head of gray hair, and
I wonder if mine's trauma. Well, not trauma, but like I had a period of time where I was
Super
miserable,
stressed.
miserable and stressed all
Yeah.
the time.
I had a friend who I forget one specific year in high school. I forget which one. It was just a living nightmare for him.
Uh-huh.
And he has a patch of gray just on like a random spot in his head.
just like that first X-Men movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, kind of like that. It just went gray.
God,
Although the first X-Men movie didn't make any sense because it would go gray, but then it wiped all the pigment out of the hair that already existed.
Oh, yeah,
I was
yeah.
always frustrated with that. I
Oh,
was like,
that's what you
no,
were frustrated
Where she would keep growing the hair, and that would be gray after that.
uh-huh.
But I'm an idiot. I shouldn't be thinking twice about what's happening in a fucking X-Men movie.
No, I mean that's that's the life we chose, is to over
Trying to
scrutinize
find
bullshit.
logic.
Yeah.
in a-
I was watching that. Oh God, which one fucking was it? It's the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man.
yeah.
And I'm watching it, and I'm buying it. Like, he's a kid. He gets bit by a spider. He's got superpowers. He's having trouble getting laid or whatever. Then he, went to search something on Bing, and I was like, ugh,
They would use Bing.
who would use Bing?
At least make a
Ruin
fake
the movie.
search engine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. But
yeah.
here we are
Yeah.
being deeply, deeply affected by episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, yeah.
And it's just becoming a part of our personalities.
Yeah. The other episode that, I always
Yeah, so I didn't watch this one. So
because
tell
it all
me
kind of melded together.
all about what
Basically, a
happened.
kid goes. It's like one of those things where you're like, oh, you're gonna go stay with your uncle or your grandpa out in the wilderness for the summer because we're parents and we don't love you clearly.
Yeah.
So they send him out to go spend time with his grandpa. But when he gets there, there's an old person, but there's also this young boy his age, and he never meets his grandpa or whatever. And turns out his grandpa is this young boy, and what he's been doing is using this magic camera to steal your essence and soul, and then he stays young. So the kid gets, and that's what really was scary to me, was the kid got hit with the photo, or one of the kids who were in the situation gets hit with a photo, and they become an old little kid. And nothing's worse than an old little kid.
Yeah, it's gross.
Yeah, it's
really
gross.
frightening.
It's sad. You don't get any of the rights. I'm sure it's hard to sign up for AARP. It's just the worst.
As a child, and what would you even know? You wouldn't even know what to do with it.
Exactly. All the benefits of age, experience, knowledge, wisdom, you don't get that. You just get
lose your body
thyroid problems and arthritis. It's definitely
as a fucking child.
it horrified me.
Yeah. It's extra scary because it's his own grandfather.
Yeah, it's what is it? What would that be called? There's got to be some kind of side, like patricide or
I have no idea.
I don't
I
know.
can't imagine there's something that specific. A grandfather murdering a.
What's it called if you're a grandpa murdering your grandson? There's got to be something, right? Come on. Oh, you don't understand?
Of course, Siri doesn't understand.
Fucking Siri.
That's a weird question to ask. It's a weird question to ask anyone, especially a fucking computer.
Do you think Siri does anything if you start asking questions about how to get away with murder?
What, like reporting it to the authorities and
Yeah,
stuff?
like putting you up.
I don't know. I mean, man, what are we even fucking talking about?
We are talking about how old people were going to steal our youth.
Old people's gonna steal. Okay, so this, I mean, just in conversation with you, casual conversation before the podcast, you were talking a lot about working out and being fit,
Yeah.
and is that like
That makes me sound so douchey.
No, I'm sorry. It wasn't so much that.
No, it's
we
fine.
were
But
having
out
a
of
conversation.
context, it's I was
We
telling you
were
about protein shakes
having
and
a conversation about
pre-energy
fitness.
workouts.
But you,
Yeah.
does that does your drive for fitness, does that tie into your fear of becoming old?
I mean, I think a little bit. It definitely. I think what really, when it comes down to my fear of getting old, it's you ever say it's a Friday night or whatever,
Yeah.
and someone has given you a plan of something that you're sitting at home. It's getting kind of late. You don't really want to go out. You feel like it would be nice to just go to sleep, and then someone's like, "Hey, we're 40 minutes away and doing this lame thing," but then you just sit there and you're like, "Oh my God, am I getting old?"
Yeah.
I don't want to go out 40 minutes away just to show up someplace for an hour and then come back home.
Yeah.
That's really what I think it gets me. I'm pretty
Really?
sure working out is all about being short. I think I'm just trying to overcompensate the fact that I'm a short dude
Yeah.
who weighs $130 and I want to prove that I'm tough.
Sure. So that's nothing. You don't think it has anything to do with fighting?
No, but I've recently started trying to eat better, and there's no other there's no other reason for eating better other than the fear of death.
Really?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm now doing a smoothie in the morning and
Fuck yeah, man.
getting all your vitamin or all your vegetables and fruit in a cup
Yeah.
is an old person move.
No, it's good.
Yeah,
It's awesome. That's the hip thing to do now.
I guess.
I don't know.
I guess a lot of old things are hip now, though.
That's true.
Yeah,
Because old people are healthy as fuck. It's just a bunch of young people trying to adapt that healthy lifestyle.
I know.
This
This generation will be weird.
You are worried, when you're sitting at home and you don't want to go out, you're scared that that's you getting old?
Totally. Yeah. I'm so terrified. Especially when I'm not going out to a bunch of shows or trying to see a bunch of people on weeknights. If I'm not just staying up, trying to do something, I feel like those are the signs of like the doors closing
Yeah.
and me becoming old. And
See, I'm not worried about any of that.
No?
No. I don't mind. Like, I mean, well, first off, I've been an introvert my entire life, so I already don't like going out.
Gotcha.
But if I'm enjoying what I'm doing, I don't care. Like, if I'm just staying in and like there's a party going on and I'm like, I honestly believe that it's not worth the trek,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm happy watching Netflix. Like,
Oh, man, see, it just eats at me.
Yeah?
It's just like it ruins whatever I'm doing.
yeah.
Certainly, I might not go out.
What do you feel like a guilt over it? Like,
Yeah,
like you feel like, what is it? Is it at all like, is it like a FOMO thing, or is it like
a FOMO thing.
FOMO, fear of missing out? You've never heard of that?
Oh, no, I thought
It's like a
I thought I
new-
was gonna learn like a new like sexuality type. No,
No, it's fear of missing out. So like there's a party going on, and even though you're tired, and you know that you've been to 100 parties before that suck, but you're still like, what if something great happens, and you're just like anxious.
I think with shows, it's maybe that.
Yeah,
Like if I'm bowing out of doing something that I'm like, oh, this might help my career, or
Yeah.
maybe I'll meet someone that's super
Sure,
important.
that
That'll
makes-
be
that
that'll
makes
be
sense,
the
though.
night.
that's like a
Um,
legitimate.
But that's kind of fear of missing out, right?
Yeah, but that's at least a concern. That is for sure part of fear of missing out, I
Mhm.
think. But I feel like that's more of a concern of like your career. Like you're worried about like fear of missing an opportunity, which is more legitimate than just fear of like missing a fun party.
Gotcha. No, I think I try to live my life with kind of like I'm looking back on it. You know, like kind of like I think it's important. This is like a weird belief, but like if you're on your deathbed and you're like looking back on your life, you probably would have lived a lot differently.
Sure.
You know, so I try to do that as much as possible, and
Yeah.
that's where I think it really like if you were on your deathbed and you like got a call from your friends, like, or you're thinking about the moment you got a call from your friends, you might be like, oh, I wish I went out there and
Yeah.
went to that strip club because it would have been different. But like honestly, probably wouldn't be. But that's just a thought you might have when you're in that position. So any kind of thought like that, you know, like you're never gonna be sitting there on your deathbed and be like, God, I wish I finished all of Murder, She Wrote
Absolutely.
on Netflix. You
Yeah.
know,
You're definitely right about that. And looking back, I didn't need to watch the entire first season of Power Rangers last summer. Like,
yes, you did. It was great.
But I didn't need to do
Oh,
that.
come on. Did you ever watch when you were a kid? Because you said you
Yeah.
didn't have cable.
Well, Power Rangers was that was on like ABC or some shit.
Oh shit.
That was a basic cable program. But it was like looking back, in the moment I thought I was having a fucking blast. I was like, I'm staying home. I'm just gonna watch Power Rangers. This is hilarious.
Right.
Like, I'd fucking drink wine like by myself and
Uh-huh.
shit. And I was having a very good time the entire time. Looking back, I was like, oh, I was super depressed. I was going through some awful, awful depression, and I was afraid to leave my apartment. And that's why I was watching Power Rangers night after night in my apartment alone. So looking back, yeah, I get what you're talking about, because it's like I regret that so much. I wasted so much fucking time just sitting in my apartment doing nothing.
Yeah.
And it's fun, and I like posted like statuses, and it was like a fun thing, and it generated some funny ideas, but not enough. It
For
wasn't
sure.
worth.
You didn't get an hour out
Yeah,
of it.
I was just consuming garbage, and then I was like making like
Right.
I think like probably the most entertaining thing that
So-
I created because of it was Facebook statuses. Like I don't think
Yeah?
so I don't think I really.
What about your Netflix special, Zodon Be Trippin', that you
What?
did? You didn't do a full hour-long special on the Power Rangers?
Oh no,
that someone else?
I'm sorry, I was confused. His name is Zordon.
What did I say?
Zodon.
Ah, shit.
I was
See,
just very confused by what you
that's
were
the kind of
talking
knowledge you gained from watching it as an adult.
Well, shit, I knew that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that stuff. That was the thing, is I was watching it and I was like, I remembered everything from childhood.
But did you
and
remember
on
how
top of that-
obvious it was that those people were being dubbed over and not speaking English?
No.
That's something that really hit me when I watched it as an adult. It was
Yeah.
like, whoa, like this was clearly not an American show.
Yeah, as a kid, you never noticed that.
Yeah, Rita would just be like, her mouth would be closed and an entire monologue would happen.
Yeah, and the thing was, she was the only human that was part of the original show.
Yeah,
Uh,
because
I'm sorry, the only person that the only person you could see that her mouth wasn't syncing up, because everything else was
a puppet thing.
yeah, puppets, or I don't know, why are we fucking talking about Power Rangers? God, we're so tangential. I don't know, but I just didn't need to be wasting time watching all that, and
Sure.
I really regretted that. But
I think
so you're
more so than anything else, I am afraid of regret, and that this might be this fear of like old people taking your life away was probably just some weird like platform for me to start having that as a little kid, because it's very hard to have like regrets as a little kid. But like when I was, having the fear that all of a sudden I was going to be this like this old person was going to get a chance to relive their life correctly, and I was going to die in a couple years having done nothing.
yeah.
It was probably the first germ of the fears that like, oh no, like what if you die and you don't accomplish what you want to accomplish?
Yeah.
Which is my biggest fear today.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
and it's funny because it is like, that's like your fear is an old person was going to touch you, and next thing you know, you're an old person.
Yeah.
Which is the same like tragic story you always hear is like, oh, I got this job thinking I was going to like just do it for a couple of years, and then next thing you know, I'm retiring at like 55.
Exactly.
And it's like their life just like in a seemingly blink of an eye just went away. So like that's like it's just such a existential fear for a child to have. Like the fact that you had this more as a kid than you do as an adult.
Well, I mean, now it's just switched. Like I'm not worried about old people taking it,
Yeah.
but now I'm worried about it just slipping through my fingers,
Becoming stagnant and like staying somewhere.
exactly.
Too long,
Like getting into like, oh man, when I was working at that call center, like, oh, it was the worst. It felt like I was already in that position. Like people would just like come up and kind of like they would offer you like more money, or at least me. They'd offer me more money, but like it would just take up that much more of your life.
Yeah.
And then that much more of your life.
And you say yes because I need the more money.
Oh no, I said no.
And you do. No, I know. I'm sorry. You said no.
Yeah.
But in
Someone
general,
would.
the way you get trapped is you
Exactly.
say yes because you're like, I need that more money. Like I just like that's fine. Like I can still leave at any time. But you slowly become more and more obligated to stay at this place that you don't want to be, and then suddenly you forget that you're obligated and you just think you're supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And then you fucking die.
It just becomes what life is, and then
Yeah.
boom, like, oh, I was a loan processor. Oh,
didn't
that's
mean
what
to
my
do
life
that.
was. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is whenever I talk about stuff like this, that's fine. If you're
Oh, sure.
happy and that's what you want to do, like that's awesome. There are people that love working in offices and stuff, and that's great. Like I feel like a lot of the times when artists and stuff talk about, like there was an article recently about like I'm not a maker and that's okay or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And it's like because it's okay to not make stuff. It's okay to just
Oh,
live
sure.
your life and be friendly and consume and like do whatever. You don't have like a lot of times I feel like artists kind of talk down to people who aren't creating.
Mhm.
And that's not like the whole purpose in life is to be happy. If you're happy without creating, that's fucking great. That's
Oh,
awesome
totally.
that you can do that. But
I've
the
always
thing
wondered
is-
if the pressure of the message "follow your dreams" is a mistake to tell kids, in a
Yeah.
way, because of that very reason. Like if your dream was to become a doctor, then
Yeah.
that's a fucking great dream to pursue.
yes.
But if your dream is like, oh, I want to be a poor comedian, like, maybe do something that like matters to the economy.
Wait, so you think that you shouldn't? Wait, I'm sorry.
I'm advocating parents. If you're listening, I know this has a huge parental fan base. But if you're listening, do not.
My parents might be the only two people listening, so.
Hi, you guys are lovely people.
Anyways, do
this
not.
would be a good podcast for your dad to listen to, because like multiple
we're just
times we're
talking
like,
him
he's
up.
so tough,
He's such a man.
such a man.
Makes me
And
feel
he's
like
handsome.
a small child. So.
No, but I don't really believe it. I think I'm probably like 90% kidding, or 80, 60% kidding. But I think that it's a bad thing, maybe as a joke. I'm saying this as a joke.
Sure.
To suggest that kids should follow their dreams, because sometimes they might like follow something that like might ruin their life. You know, I feel like we were
Okay.
all universally told that that's what had to happen, and now we have like this huge population of improvisers.
Yeah.
And now a lot less people who follow their dream in improv or comedy or whatever like get to have their dream come true,
Yeah.
because there's so many more people trying.
Yeah.
And then a lot of those people might have been better suited as dentists.
Yeah. But
I sound like an asshole.
see, now I think follow your dreams is kind of a bad thing to tell people or children for kind of the exact opposite reason.
Uh-huh.
Is I feel like it is when you say follow your dreams, it's supposed to be very inspirational. Like you can do whatever you want, just follow your dreams, blah blah blah. I feel like that's putting it in a perspective that you're telling a child that this is a daunting task,
Mhm.
and it's like go against the norm. Like you're putting your when you call it a dream, it's like a fucking dream. Like it's this big daunting
It's
thing.
more meaningful.
It's not the normal thing. You're going to go against the grain. You're going to and to me that just puts too much pressure on the dream. So people
Fully
force
agree.
themselves to figure out what a dream is. Like for them, does that make any sense? Whereas
Totally.
if you just allowed kids to like grow and be true to who they are, they would discover what they want to do way earlier, and they wouldn't because like what you said, like say somebody wants to be a lawyer, like
Right.
they would have naturally grown up to like be really interested in all that stuff. But if you keep telling children follow your dreams, they might get this idea of like, well, a lawyer is a normal job. I should try to be a movie star. You know, like you might be
Yeah.
tricking them into not following their actual path in life. Does that make any sense?
A little bit. I definitely agree. I think we're hitting the same "don't follow your dreams" thing from two different angles. But
Yeah.
like I think both stand. It's especially in our culture where we kind of there's obviously more universal attention to something like being a celebrity than there is to like
Sure.
being a scientist.
Yeah.
So when you hear like dream or something that like no one can do, those are the things that kind of pop up first
Right,
in a way, and that's wrong.
right.
That's definitely not what you want.
Because it's like it's equally as difficult to become a scientist, like to be like a
Yeah.
top like that's also a very daunting task. But nobody thinks of that first off when they're thinking about dreams.
Right.
Like it doesn't pop up.
And maybe it should.
It should.
Yeah. We need more scientists
Fuck
than
yeah.
we probably do.
I was always bothered
Actors.
as a kid when they were like, "You could be president one day," and I was like, "What? I don't want to do that.
Nah.
That's boring. Like politics. Like I just hated the idea of being a president." But everyone, like when you're a child, people are like, "I'm gonna be president one day," and it's like, why?
Really? You had a
Wait.
lot of kids saying that?
Yeah, you never experienced that? It'd
No,
be like,
not
what
a
do you
lot
want
of
to be when you
people.
grow up? And like a lot of kids would write down president for some stupid fucking reason.
See, I had what I wanted to do locked from a very early age.
Really? So
Yeah.
I feel like that's uncommon.
So
So for
maybe.
you to hear follow your dreams, you would be like, well, yeah, my dream is this.
Yeah. Do you remember like the Animaniacs?
Yeah.
In the opening credits to the Animaniacs, they introduced to me the fact that TV shows had writers.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh my God,
I want to be part
you
of
can
that.
do that for a living? Yes, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then, my whole life, like every time I got that question, I was like, oh yeah, I want to be a TV writer. And like, I think I had such a like confident in youth that I don't even recall like anyone being like, oh, maybe you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
You know, like I was also like held back or almost held back for like ADHD and like barely being able to read,
Sure.
but I still wanted to be a television writer.
Yeah. Well, see, like I wanted to be a comedian, but so I dropped out of art school to be a comedian
Baller.
because okay.
No, yeah, man. Fuck the establishment.
Yeah, I dropped out of community college art school. But it was because I was good at art and I was like, I could turn this into a life.
Uh-huh.
Comedians were this otherworldly thing. Like they weren't humans in my eyes. So like you saw that there are people writing for television. If I
Yeah.
saw that at that age, I'd be like, wow, that's cool that some people get to do that. I would never consider that I could do that. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
really?
So,
Even though you grew up, I mean, I imagine you were like the funny guy, right?
Yeah.
In some way, yeah.
I mean, I tried.
So you didn't think like you could milk that skill?
No.
Oh.
I thought I was like, well, I'll just go be an artist. And then like the thing
My father was an artist. His father was an artist.
no, they're the farthest thing from artists.
Yeah, they're tough guys.
They're manly, tough men.
Manly, good-looking, tough men.
But so then like one time I went to see a show at a friend's college and it
Mhm.
was Baron Vaughn before he was like a name.
Oh, wow.
And he was performing completely alone, like no openers. I don't even think there was a fucking host. It was a poorly produced show by the school, but he knocked it out of the park, and he was so funny, and like he was as funny as any professional stand-up comedian I'd ever seen. And then after the show, he stayed and he just chatted with us,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, comedians are just humans. They're just people. Like all that magical shit that he was blowing me away with before, like after I spoke to him when he got off stage, I was like, oh, he's just a man. He's just a human man. Like I could do this. And that night planted the seed.
Anyone could kill him.
Yeah. He's vulnerable.
He's
to
only
knives.
a man.
No, but that moment planted the seed where I was like, yeah, I could do that. And then I slowly started doubting my entire life until one day I signed up for improv classes, and then I immediately stopped going to improv. I actually didn't immediately stop. I went to level A through E, and then I started doing stand-up.
God, yeah, the whole level thing.
Been doing stand-up for 4 years, man. Okay, so wait, where did we even leave
So
off?
the last thing I remember talking about was regret. Yeah, so I think it was the first manifestation of like my fear of regrets and not moving your life correctly, which I still have a problem with.
Yeah.
But if you compare it to like the other fears when you were a kid, like at some point I felt like, oh, if I put my feet down, like a boogeyman's gonna get me because I saw it, or I saw Psycho and I was like, oh man, showering.
Yeah.
You get soap in your eyes for that split second.
Yeah.
Some would-be murderer is waiting in my house for the moment soap gets in my eyes to come in and stab me to death, as opposed to the fact that he could have done it at any point because I'm a fucking 8-year-old.
Right.
Like he didn't need to wait for me to become weak.
He doesn't
and
need
blinded.
to catch you by surprise.
So a lot of those things go away, but I think the important thing about me hanging on to the, oh, what if I just had to suddenly, like some asshole came up and stole my life away and they get to relive theirs and I lose mine, is that like I'm still kind of afraid of that.
Yeah.
That's why.
How do you deal with it in like your day to day?
Well, I think the only good thing about being Catholic, like literally the only thing, is that they force you to use guilt as a tool. So it's kind of like regret and fear. It's the constant thing burning my productivity.
Sure, it becomes inspiration.
Yeah, like before I go to bed, to wake up for the next day, I'll usually be like, "Oh, you really fucked up today, man.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow, you're gonna have to you're gonna get up and you're gonna go to the gym and you're gonna come right back and you're gonna write for an hour and then you're gonna start doing the projects you have to." And I don't hit all of my goals, but depending on how scared I was the night before, I do a lot better than the nights when I just wake up like a normal person.
I feel like that's pretty common, but I feel like then holding on to that throughout the night and waking up and being productive is uncommon.
It really depends. Like I have good days and I have bad days.
Yeah.
It's kind of a blessing because any day that's really shitty productively, the next day will be pretty good.
Sure.
In a balance.
Yeah.
For a scale, like if I did real bad, like if I had a day where I woke up at 11 and I didn't get a lot done, you can guarantee the next day I'll be up at 7. I'll go to the gym immediately and then I'll be on a good path till about halfway through the day, and then I feel like I've earned something.
Sure.
And then I slack off, and then I'll go to bed being like, "What the fuck did you do watching that 20-minute TV show?"
You should still feel like the fact that you got half the day. That's amazing.
I guess, or maybe we just have low standards.
Probably, but I feel like that's still a pretty good track record. I feel like most people waste an entire day.
Sure.
I used to. That's why I stopped watching TV and stuff, because I would wake up and start watching TV, and I'd think I'll just watch an episode or something, and then I just watch 6 episodes. That's how I start my fucking day, with 3 hours of television. That's not okay.
That's part of the reason why I want to come up with a podcast that involves binge watching something.
Because then you have an excuse to do it.
I'm being productive.
You don't have to feel guilty about wasting your life.
Especially if I can get a bunch of friends together. Because I also used to love sitting around with friends and watching garbage.
Yeah.
That was what I did through most of high school.
Yeah.
But now that's definitely something of growing old that's been suck. It's harder to just hang out for no reason than it used to be. I feel like that keeps getting harder.
You hear people talk about it all the time on podcasts, is they make up a podcast so they have an excuse to get in a room with their friend for an hour and a half. And that's such a bummer. That's
I know,
such
right?
A huge bummer. But it's kind of nice, because then you are working harder. That generally means you're working harder. If you don't have time for your friends, it's not because you're watching Netflix, it's because you're doing work.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a good thing. Or you're trying to pay bills, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
And then if you record it, if you have the podcast thing going on, if some old person comes up and zaps your youth from you, you can listen to this on your deathbed. I remember when I hung out with Charlie.
I don't know. Did we cover everything?
No idea.
I have no formatting for this show yet.
Oh, let me see if you can work this in. I don't know if you can actually cut it in, but as far as day to day, when it comes to old people, I steer clear of them.
You
Like-
still have anxieties about old people.
Yeah, I still like. I'm better now. Like I'm more like I feel this obligation to sit down with them and be like, let's talk about your life.
Really?
Yeah,
And you do that?
Yeah.
Or do you just feel the obligation
I
and then steer
I
clear of it
feel
still?
obligated. First, I want to. It's almost like when someone like has something wrong with them, and you want to like make a point to not stare at it.
Sure.
You know, it's like that.
Yes.
First, I want to make a point to treat them like a human. Like
Yes.
I want to come into the room and act like they're just anybody else.
Be like, I'm afraid of you, but I don't want you to know that I'm afraid of you.
Exactly, and it probably comes off overly intense because I'm just like, hey, buddy,
Sure.
yeah. No, you're just a guy.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm sure
you're-
they love that.
I'm
though.
not afraid of
Most
you.
People just want to talk to someone.
Exactly, and that's another outside of what I think. You know, I think I like as far as the thesis of me being afraid of things for a certain reason. Being alone is also a scary thing, and I feel like a lot of old people are alone, which is
'Cause
another
all their
reason why I
friends
want to
are
sit
dead.
down and talk to them. Yeah, because all their friends are dead, and also, you know, if we think it's hard to meet up and hang out, like imagine how hard it is when walking's hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's even worse.
Yeah.
So I try to do that, but I also am kind of mining them for the secrets to living a good life.
Yeah.
It's really what
Just
I'm
some
doing.
insight.
Like,
But
it's like,
that's-
what did you do?
I think
What-
that's a
where did things go wrong?
Respectable thing to do.
Yeah, I think it's fine. You know, back in the day, I was like, I couldn't even sit in a room with them. But now, like with my grandpa, as he was getting older, you know, I made sure to kind of like pick his brain about, and I definitely got like a lot of insight. Like, this was a guy who had fought in a war, and like, he had no one else really to talk to, and he was just kind of going senile and claiming that the FBI was after him.
Wow.
But also would make decisions like he voted for Obama solely because he was like, this is my only shot to say I saw a black president.
Yeah.
Like anything else about him is irrelevant. Like
He just was like, I want this experience. under my belt.
exactly. Like he was like checking off his bucket list. Like whether I don't even know. I mean, I know he was friendly with our neighbor who is black. So I don't even know like what his situation was as far as like his life.
Sure.
And being a supporter of like the civil rights.
Right.
But like at least at this stage, he was like, no, I can get that. I can also get that in.
Yeah.
Like I got through the big war. I saw 9/11 and
Yeah.
a black president. Done.
So is he still with us? Is he
Yeah,
gonna-
he's passed.
Oh,
He's passed.
So that's one less vote for Hillary then, I guess.
Yeah, he would have totally voted for Hillary.
He's like, I need to see a woman president.
Woman
too."
president's next.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to live your life in some way. It's like definitely experience something new because
Sure.
like at some point you're not gonna experience anything.
Yeah.
So get it all in.
Yeah. Try to just keep new experiences. Don't stick with familiar shit.
Yeah, and that's what eats at me when it's like a Friday night and someone wants to hang out and I don't want to go. It's like, am I missing out?
Yeah.
I guess I am missing out. Am I missing out on a life experience I'm going to look back fondly on
Yeah.
as opposed to the rest of Daredevil?
It's funny because it's funny like when I had this idea for this podcast, I thought maybe I would talk to people and then we would talk about like the root of their fears, like where it's from, and maybe like oh well that's where it's from. Like maybe I can get over it and stuff. You're just making me anxious about wasting my life.
Well, that's
And
the
now you're
curse
just
of being
spreading-
around me.
Like now I'm like, oh, I shouldn't stay in as much as I do. I should be social. I should be out there making friends and having life
No,
experiences.
you're just catching my disease, dude.
It's not a bad disease.
It's not?
It's encouraging you to actually. Like
Yeah.
the reason we're stressed is because this is a legitimate concern. Is we shouldn't be wasting our lives.
Yeah,
We're idiots.
that's
So
good.
did we
though.
cover everything?
I think we covered everything.
Covered.
I've got to say about old people and how they will steal my youth.
Old people stealing your youth. You're still kind of afraid, but you overcome it intentionally.
Yeah, I think there was some intention to it. I also realized at a certain point, like, they can't do it.
Yeah.
They can't take my youth.
But when you talk to them and stuff, is there still something? Just speaking to an old person, it's reminding you that you're gonna die one day.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
there's still a fear involved.
Well, I don't know if I'm as afraid of the fact that I'm going to die as though I'm afraid I'm going to die and all of my I won't have accomplished stuff. Like, if I think about someone jumping out in an alleyway and stabbing me to death,
Yeah.
I'm not that afraid of dying that way because I'm like, oh, I'm absolved from all of my obligations. Like,
Yeah.
anything I said I wanted to do, it's not my fault. It's that guy's fault who stabbed me to death.
Really?
Yeah, or anything like that. It just like it saves me. It is like I've just been moved out of the category of a failure. I'm just a victim. But if I get to old age and I haven't done everything that I wanted to do, it is
Gotcha.
my fault.
I
It's no
okay.
one's fault but me.
I understand that logic. I don't feel that way at all.
Oh, it's bonkers. It's bonkers.
No. I mean, mine's still fucking like. I started worrying about death when I started doing stand up because I finally felt like I had something
to lose.
Yeah, like I was just going through the motions in life, and I was worried about death. Obviously, I love family and people. I didn't want to lose things, but like I finally was like, oh, my life has purpose now.
Hey, that's a good thing.
Have to see this through. That's like the first time I ever like started being concerned about my mortality.
So let's just say hypothetically, when this podcast is over, I stab you to death.
Yeah.
Is that a problem?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I couldn't
because
release
you
the
couldn't,
podcast.
Because you couldn't keep. Oh, I can do it. I can get that out there.
All right. We should probably wrap this up. So, Melzer, what do you have to plug? You just gave me some good news before we started recording.
The pilot that I did, The Magic Hour, for Nickelodeon, will be on Nickelodeon's website on March 3rd.
March 3rd?
So if you're a little kid and you've listened to this podcast, I'm sorry.
Or a fully grown adult man, Charlie Rohr, who's going to watch a children's program.
Yeah,
like
who wants to watch it's only like 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
But took like half a year of my life away.
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud of it. So yeah, March 3rd, Nickelodeon, The Magic Hour.
Yeah, and anything else you have? I know you're part of Muscular Clown.
Yeah, Muscular Clown. We definitely have. We have a bunch of new sketches coming out, and we have a web series or two actually now that should be coming out soon. One's very elaborate and has a lot of production value, and then one is just a real goofy thing called "I'm Talking to You, John Cena." That should be coming out pretty shortly. So the Street Wizard's Apprentice.
Yeah, which I'm in an episode of that.
You are.
I'm in the
He's great.
finale.
He's so tough. He's like his dad.
Yeah, look at me.
He's
I can
beating
only
up
be
people
tough
in
when I
alleys.
pretend.
Yeah.
So when do you have dates for those, or are those still in the air?
No dates for those.
Okay, so just follow Muscular Clown.
Yeah, follow Muscular Clown on
Twitter
YouTube.
and Facebook,
Yeah.
YouTube, and you'll find out when those come out.
Yep.
All right, cool.
All
Well,
right.
Thank you very much for doing my weird podcast, Melzer.
Thank you for having me, and don't touch any old people.
All right. Love you guys.